So here's just a couple of stories you can read about today on VGM. We're going to cover Microsoft's new gaming target, which isn't AAA, as well as new hardware on the horizon. We're going to start off with Microsoft today announcing that they're going to be returning to Gamescom this year, which will happen August 21st in Germany. Microsoft says they're going to bring 25 games to the booth and mention covering features of upcoming games that haven't been talked about yet, talking about titles like Forza and State of Decay 2 DLC, Ori, and PUBG. Notably, however, there was no mention of Crackdown 3 in their presser, which I do have another story on Crackdown on VGN if you want to check that out. That's worth another video. Microsoft also says to be on the lookout for new hardware and accessories, and while we know Xbox is already working on the next-gen console, you can be sure that that's not going to be what they're going to be showing off. So there is a chance that there could be like a new Xbox bundle maybe announced and released, but there's probably a better chance that we're going to finally get to see the successor to the Xbox Elite controller. So earlier this year, several sites said that they had confirmed that there was indeed a new Xbox controller in the works, codenamed Spider. Some of these features rumored to be coming to the Xbox Elite controller include a 3-stage hair trigger function. So that's going to, the first one only had like 2, so it was either on or it was off. So this one's going to give you a little bit more variety, and that just helps you determine how far you need to depress the trigger in order to reach max depth. So in games like shooters, you don't want to have to be pressing the trigger all the way down before your gun fires off a bullet. So you can adjust that to where you just barely have to tap it for it to work. But in games like racers, you may actually want the full trigger functionality because you barely press it and you're going to go slow, and then you fully press it and then it's going to be like slamming the pedal to the metal. So there's also talks that you'll be able to adjust the amount of tension for your joysticks as far as pushing and pulling and the resistance that you'll get, and feel more configuration profiles, USB-C connection, and Bluetooth support for PCs. Some also believe it's going to come with a built-in battery pack. But until Microsoft announces all of this, just take it with a grain of salt. It's just rumors, but there's a lot of rumors floating around there. And so it's probably about that time for Microsoft to finally unveil it and have it ready to go forward for the holiday season. Also on VGM, Microsoft's Vice President of Microsoft Studios was recently talking about the type of studios the company is looking at, and here's what he said, quote, "While the industry is growing across the board, there seems to be fewer teams and studios focused on mid-tier games that sit between AAA blockbusters on one end and smaller indie games on the other. Those are some of the kinds of studios that we're interested in partnering with right now. Studios with teams that can make quality crafted games that sit just between mid-tier and AAA, and by becoming part of our Microsoft Studios family can focus on craft and innovation and accelerate their creative growth." So that's not to say that Microsoft isn't making any AAA games, but it just means that they're interested in getting more of these games that sit between AAA and indie titles. And I think in some ways it's been very hit or miss for Microsoft with these types of games for this generation, at least in my mind, because these are my opinions. On one hand, you had Cuphead, which I think is one of the best games that I've played this generation. I absolutely loved it. I also enjoyed State of Decay 2, even though it had its flaws, and even though the devs claimed that it was a AAA game, I don't think anybody actually believed that. At least after they played it, they didn't believe it. But also games like Super Lucky's Tale and Recore were titles that I literally couldn't talk myself into playing for more than 30 minutes before I was just bored to death, and I installed it forever without looking back. So I really don't see a problem with going after different tier games. I just want to see more games, period. So make the moves, get them on your system. I feel like we hear more about new controllers than games sometimes with Microsoft. And so anyway, that's my thoughts on it. Post yours down below. Check out videogamesandnews.com for these stories and many more. Also want to spend a moment and thank my Patreon supporters over the last week. I haven't made many videos, but that doesn't mean I haven't been working. I've actually made a lot of changes to VGN. It may not look like it on the front end, even though I've got some changes that I want to implement there as well, but most of it has been going on in the back end, and I've been trying to learn things and do things to speed up the site to make it a lot faster for you. I've also migrated over to a new server, and those changes were like, close to $200 for the next year. So it's not cheap, but those who have invested in me, I want to invest back into what you enjoy. And so if you like to see your name added to all my videos in the future and you want to support the work that I'm doing, feel free to become a patron yourself and follow the links down in the description box. But thank you so much to those who support me, even if it's just you watching this video. I appreciate it. So be sure to hit that like button, hit the notification bell, leave a comment. That does it for me, The Red Dragon. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care.